Welcome everybody. Good afternoon. We are back with Sarah Hilliard today. Preparing children for the future with STEAM is our topic, the topic of our webinar today. We'll be starting in a couple of minutes. Remember, your microphones have been muted, but you can use the question box to send us your comments and questions. And also Sarah will be inviting you to participate and send us answers to some questions. So please feel free, try to find the question box and start telling us where you are from. We want to know where you are from. So you start using the question box and you find how to get connected. We will be here for an hour with time for questions at the end. Sarah will answer all your questions today. So in a couple of minutes, we are ready to start. Oh, you have found the question box. We already have people saying hi from Tandil. Welcome, Graciela from Tandil. We also have Julieta, also from Argentina, from Patagonia. Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you connected today. We do have Tania from Ecuador, Nila from Peru. Welcome, Peru. We also have Natalia from Peru. Welcome, everybody. Nice to have you on the other side of the screen. So in a minute, we'll be starting. We want Sarah to take advantage of her time with you. So let me introduce Sarah Hilliard. She's a trained teacher of English and holds a master's degree in teaching English to young learners from the University of York in UK. She has taught English in kindergarten and has been kindergarten coordinator at bilingual schools in Buenos Aires, Argentina. She has also taught at secondary level and has been tutor of children's literature at the National Teacher Training College. She spent 2 years traveling as an actress with the performers, Theatre in Education, and she's now tutor on Niall's online course, Teaching English in Pre-Primary Education in the UK. She's also a teacher trainer, a writer, and EFL consultant for bilingual schools. So welcome, Sarah, and let's get started today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Pat, and welcome everyone who is out there. I'm very happy to be introducing this second webinar in the series. And I'm really excited because there are lots of teachers who are interested in the topic of STEAM. So the mission of this webinar is to share ways in which pre-primary teachers can get children future ready using STEAM. And actually STEAM naturally does this already for us because the skills and the transferabilities that children develop while engaging in STEAM activities are paramount. STEAM does it anyway for us. So just so that we're all on the same page, what is STEAM? For those of you who did not attend the first webinar or who are not familiar with the acronym, STEAM stands for science, technology, engineering, the arts, and maths. But it's not about doing a science class or a maths class, but what we're going to try to do is to integrate as many of these disciplines as possible and also combine it with teaching English in pre-primary with the younger ones. So before we do anything else, I'm going to ask you a simple question that you can answer in that box that you have found already. And it's a very, very simple question. I just need to know this. Those of you who teach in pre-primary or who have children of the age between 1-year-olds and 5-year-olds, do those children, either in class or at home, do they play with building blocks? Do they stack up blocks? Do they build castles with wooden or plastic blocks? either during your lessons, as free play in their own time. Just write a yes or a no in that box. Just a simple question. Do children play with building blocks? Pat, do you have answers?
Yes. Everybody's
Okay.
saying yes.
Everybody's saying good answer, everybody. And I imagine that probably when these children engage in block play, they show that they're having fun, right? So my second question is, did you know that building with blocks teaches children important skills that can actually make a huge impact on the rest of their life and the future of our society? I don't know if I would go that far, but perhaps it sounds a bit too far-fetched. Maybe, but maybe not. We'll have to analyze that. So let's see. What does block play teach us? Block play teaches us how to figure things out for ourselves, because when children engage in block play, they're curious about how it will work best. They give it a try. They learn that if they try something and it doesn't work, then they try again. They persevere. There are certain things that we can teach children for their future, but there are certain things that we're not really sure about, like the facts that they will need to know, or the specific skills of the trade that whatever they decide to become, because there will be new jobs and new technologies and new roles, but we can teach them how to take risks, for example. That feeling of placing one more block on your tower and hoping it will please not be that block that will make it unstable and fall, that's taking a risk when you're very, very young. And then if the blocks do keep falling, then we need to accept we need to learn from failure. After a few attempts, we discover that maybe it was one block too many, or that putting perhaps the bigger blocks on the bottom will make the castle more stable. So it's the concept of stability that we're looking at. So embracing failure as part of learning is important for students so that they can take risks and they can make mistakes to learn. That's part of doing STEAM. We fail because it's also an opportunity to think about how we can do it again and do it better, how to reevaluate, redesign something, rethink a problem, and do better next time. So we sometimes take for granted these simple activities like stacking blocks, which in STEAM is engineering, it's building, it's stability. But it's through these types of experiences that are hands-on and it's children discovering for themselves that children really learn how to problem solve, persevere, acquire skills that they will surely need for an unknown future. And this example shows us how the focus is on the how, learning how to do things, learning how to think about things, but not so much on the what, because we don't know what the future will bring, but we can guess how we will probably need to perform. So these skills are all skills for life. We're always learning how to figure things out for ourselves when we're faced with new situations. We keep on learning how to persevere in different contexts, how to come up with new solutions to new challenges that we face. And STEAM intends to attract the attention of children with new challenges. That's what it's about. We give them a new challenge, we give them a new problem for which they will need certain skills. So it's a way of offering opportunities to playing with skills and being able to rehearse these skills, giving them lots of practice so that when they're very young, they do this and they're able to cope with new or difficult or challenging situations in real life. So STEAM fosters a liking for these subjects, science, art, and it all comes with discovery and curiosity. So we want to foster a liking for curiosity in general, which can turn children into lifelong learners because they build the real skills and the transferabilities that they will need. So research tells us that children's early experiences, so we're looking at early STEAM, this is very young learners, that children's early experiences build their brain structure, and it lays the foundations for lifelong learning, for what is to come, and how children will think and approach learning when they're older. So learning anything, not just language. Here we're talking about language, but learning anything in life, how they will approach learning of anything. So STEAM challenges are about encountering new information and new challenges, so that in a way it resembles, and in a playful way, it resembles any new challenge that children could face. Those life skills that are at the core of STEAM, being an integrated approach, celebrating creative thinking, experimenting and problem solving, and hopefully being able to maintain this through life, so that they're still creative thinkers and experimenters and problem solving when it comes to their job, to their own life when they're adults. So you might be wondering who those digital characters are on the screen. That's Miss Grass. She is one of the characters in Pearson's new pre-primary course called Little Stars, which I'm very proudly using for my examples today, as I am the writer of the STEAM activities in the series, as well as being series consultant. And this is a 3-level course for 3, 4 and 5-year-olds. And there's one STEAM challenge in every unit. So there's 8 STEAM challenges in each level. So the examples that I'm going to give you today are taken from Little Stars. Going back to the beginning of this session, we looked at block play. So here we're going to look at block play again, block play with an aim, which involves the STEAM, it involves language learning, and of course the natural life skills that will be involved, the natural skills that we want to develop. So this one is, can you build a tall building? But it goes more than just asking children, can you build a tall building? And they build a tall building. There's much more involved, so that we use language, so that we can develop the skills that we're talking about. So in this STEAM challenge, learners will explore structures and stability of building by building places designed to connect with a unit around my neighborhood or my city. And this is done with 4-year-olds. So first we're going to introduce the topic, the concept of a tall building, and we're going to have everyone in the classroom stand up and become a tall building. We're going to stand up and we're going to become tall building. You say tall building, everyone stands up and become a tall building. Everyone crouch and become a low building. Tall building, low building. Tall building, low building. Okay, maybe we won't use the word building actually, because look at the page, we've got a museum there. So let's use the word museum, because that's one of the words, one of the vocabulary words that they're going to be learning in this unit. So we'll say tall museum, low museum, tall museum, low museum, and we can play around with that, getting faster and faster. We can say 2 of them together. So we say tall building, low building, low building, tall building, tall building, see if they can follow. So we need to understand the concept of tall and low first. Then we're going to research into tall buildings around the world. So we look at the tallest museum in the world. Look, were we as tall as that museum in Italy? We're going to look at the tallest cinema. We're going to look at the tallest building, and there's a restaurant on the 122nd floor of that building. Imagine the view. And so children become amazed at how tall buildings can actually be, and they don't fall down. Skyscrapers of any kind you want. You could look at any type of building, except it's a good idea to take those vocabulary words that they will have learned in the unit, like museum, cinema, restaurant, rather than just building or skyscraper, because that's not what has been worked on. So that's how we combine it with language learning. We take those language points that we are learning, and those are the ones we use in our STEAM challenge. So if possible, always when you're looking at things from around the world, try and show them a map or a globe, so that we can start building awareness of the existence of different countries and where they are compared to where they are. So if they're far or near to where we are? Do we have to cross an ocean to get there? So that we can, they start building their awareness of places around the world as well. And so then we're going to get together in our circle, and first we're going to build a structure all together. So we'll start building our tall museum with things that we provide, but we're going to only use one type of material, so that what we want to do in STEAM is to limit the material so that they can experiment with that only. But then we're going to move around and we're going to experiment with different materials, but we want to find out how that material works. So for example, only empty toilet paper tubes and paper plates. So empty toilet paper tube, a paper plate, empty toilet paper tube, paper plate. Okay, so that's how that will work. Otherwise, toilet paper tubes alone will be difficult. They'll probably only be able to stack 2 or 3 and it will already fall, but we could try that as well so that they can see how this happens, and they need some other material to put probably in the middle of it. Or we can make slits in the paper tube so that we can fit them in together. Or maybe it's plastic cups and pieces of cardboard, or only plastic cups, and see how they can do that, putting them up and then another one down, another one up and another one down, or only boxes, for example. But having that criteria where they can only use certain things so that they can explore that material itself. So let's say we're using toilet paper tubes and paper plates. So we're going to first all together do this so that we teach them to count and to predict. So for example, we're going to count, we've got 3 already. So 1, 2, 3. Ooh, it's a tall museum. And before they add another one, we'll ask them, will it fall down? We want them to predict and think about what they're doing, not just do it and see what happens. Wait, will it fall down before they put it on? And then they'll put it on and see whether their prediction is correct or not. And then we can do it again with another type of material, but one material then the other. So then we're going to get divided into groups, and we're going to have different workstations. Workstations are tables with a type of material on it. So one will have one type of material, another. In their groups, they will start building their tallest, whatever they want, tall museum, tall school, tall restaurant, whatever they want. And they will start using those materials and see how high they can get. They will count and they will predict. So we're going to monitor, we're going to walk around and help them to remember to do those steps, not just to build it, but actually think about it. And then we're going to give them a time limit, and we're going to have them go to a different workstation so they can try all the different material. They could be wearing builders hats, for example, to become builders as well, so that we make it a bit more playful, if you like. And we're going to ask them to tell us what they have made. It's a tall museum or it's a tall restaurant. We're going to ask them to document their work in the book, either having them draw what they built and the number of the material that they were able to use before it fell down. So they have to count before they put the next on, because it might fall down, and if they haven't counted, they won't know how tall it was. So if it was 3 cups, then they'll write number 3, or they'll draw it with 3 cups, not 5 or 6, but 3 if that is how tall it was. And if possible, you can ask your children to take photographs of what they're making, and have them try to use, if you have tablets in your classroom, have them try to hold the tablet still and steady and press the button to take a photograph, so they start learning to do that as well. So if we look at this STEAM experience, we're looking at lots of different skills. For example, collaboration. Children are working in groups, which is a big field already, because groups, working as a group and in collaboration, means negotiating, having empathy, taking turns. It's nothing simple. There's also creative thinking, because they're using the material differently depending on what material they decide to use, and every material works differently, so they have to imagine how they're going to create this and how they're going to stack up those bits of material to make their tall building. There's critical thinking, there's understanding the world, they're understanding about tall buildings around the world when we do the research. How can a building be that tall and it doesn't fall? Also predicting and deciding when they think their building will fall, or whether they can still put some more material on it. They have to actually think about that to problem solve and perhaps even redesign by using different materials to try again. So it's the engineering concept in this case, while they're building their structures as high as they can, and they're manipulating different classroom building material. There's risk taking, they're dealing with failure, because the whole point of this is that at some point it will fall down. You can't say how tall it can actually be if you don't see it fall down. So we need to know how many of those material pieces you can put up before it actually falls down. So it will fall down. They'll have to know that it will fall down. So you'll have to deal with failure. So there's emotional development as well. It's the whole point of it. And there's the maths concepts such as tall and low, and counting how tall they are before they fall down. So there is actually a lot involved in one very simple STEAM building challenge, which looks like it's very simple at first sight, but there is much more involved in there, isn't there? So now I'm just getting out my crystal ball, and I'm going to try to look deep into the future and see what it brings. My crystal ball tells me that many of the things that a typical student learns today at school will probably not be very relevant, not something very relevant to learn. Traditionally, knowledge about the world meant learning facts, learning when Columbus discovered America, or how much 6 times 3 is. And you would have a test to find out if you know those facts. But now the need to learn facts is diminishing, because everything is just a Google click away. When you're talking about facts, information, we can find out information very quickly. You've got Google, you've got Siri, you can just ask Alexa. So you can get information very easily. They know the stuff. We need to know what to do with the stuff. So we need the skills, how to do things with that information, how to make sense of information, tell the difference between what is important and what isn't. So STEAM, being hands-on and experiential learning, means that learners don't learn facts off a piece of paper. If they learn a concept, it's because they have been playing with the concept and discovering it themselves. But paramount is those skills that they're learning while playing with those concepts. My crystal ball also tells me that people are going to have to solve problems that we don't presently have. So the challenges that our learners will face in the future will be very different from those that we face. So they need skills that they'll be able to transfer to different situations and allow them to keep on learning and adapt. We can't teach them how to do that right now. We can teach them to be ready to learn and to adapt. We can teach them that. So this is another reason for focusing on the how, on the skills, and not so much on the what or the fact. Fortunately, in early years and in pre-primary education, there is already a strong focus on soft skills, and we look at children as a whole child. We look at whole child development, not only English. We know that children need to learn English in pre-primary. We know that they need to be able to share. To learn English, we know that they need to be more independent. To learn English, we know that they need certain skills. Otherwise, learning English will not happen either. So still, when we're teaching language, we shouldn't forget that this is something that we're working on anyway. This is something that I felt very identified with when I was watching a webinar by Claire Venables, who works a lot with pre-primaries, and she was saying this in one of her webinars. She was saying that we don't teach language, we teach people. And I think that is very true, and there's a shift towards teaching language in a holistic way, because people are not made up only of language. Also, my future tells me that there will be new words, like language is always changing, isn't it? Zoom is a new word that we all use now. Even my 3-year-old uses the word Zoom. We can replace Zoom in our alphabet Instead of Z for zebra, we can do Z for Zoom, or instead of I for igloo, it's now I for iPad, and things like that. Language will keep transforming itself, won't it? And there might be words that replace these, and even some that are newer still. I don't need my crystal ball for this next one. Technology will not be the technology we use today. New technologies are evolving, and we know that the technology we have today will be replaced by new ones, sometimes unimaginable ones. So we need to be adaptable. Another thing that my crystal ball shows me is that people will have to apply to jobs that don't exist today. So this is the employability factor. And in fact, some say that in 20 years from now, many of the job openings will probably be STEAM fields in science and technology. Anyway, every employer, whatever job it is, whether it's science and technology and engineering, prefer workers who know how to problem solve, be creative, work collaboratively, communicate well. That's going to be what people are looking for any job anyway. So related to the employability factor, I have this quote here from a head from a school in the States who they have a very strong STEAM focus and arts education focus. And she says that children come to us as creative, curious beings, eager to interact with their environment. Asking them to sit quietly and memorize answers is not consistent with everything we know about how children learn, nor are those practical skills for the real world. How many jobs ask workers to just listen and memorize? We must employ strategies that prepare kids for their future. So, do you know any 21st century jobs that require us to simply listen and memorize? Take the STEAM areas. Think about job types that are connected with STEAM, like programming jobs or building online platforms and web developers. And the concept of a community manager didn't exist years ago, and now it's a big boom. Everyone's a community manager. The field of robotics, it's entirely different. And for none of these will children benefit from listening and memorizing. So it's best to be hands-on and to let them experience and to learn by themselves. So this is a question for you. And again, if you could use that box and answer this question: what do innovators and children have in common? So just brainstorm, just write one word that comes to mind. What do innovators and children have in common? Just that one word that you can think of. What would it be? Don't be afraid. There's no right or wrong answers. It's what you think. What do innovators and children have in common? And when we get some answers, Pat, if you could just read a few out.
We already have some answers: curiosity, creativity, free thinkers. They dream, but most no limits, someone says. But
fantastic.
Creativity and curiosity are the ones that we get the most.
Lovely.
No fears, are Irma also. They are spontaneous.
Fantastic. Beautiful, beautiful, good. So those are lovely answers. You see how much children and innovators have in common already. We don't have to go to great lengths to get them to be innovators or to think creatively or critically. They already do it, don't they? We could summarize all these character traits into MacGyver. MacGyver is what innovators and children have in common, perhaps. Do you think MacGyver has innovation skills? Of course he does. Although an innovation skill set may sound like a modern trend, it isn't. The tasks this character carries are very innovative. He is a problem solver. He has creativity traits, social skills that would take him very far in the future. So yes, these are my ideas about what innovators and young children have in common, and they resemble what most of you were saying. I don't have they dream, which I loved, but yes, they do. So kids are curious and creative by nature. They like finding things out. They use their inbuilt inquiry skills. They've got them already. And in the future, they will need to come up with new ideas and not be told what to do. Just sit there and wait for someone to tell them. Children love solving problems. Give them a problem and they will naturally want to find a solution to it, because there's something meaningful. If there's a problem, it's already meaningful. There's something to solve. They're critical thinkers and they can come up with new solutions. They collaborate. Despite differences, they collaborate with each other, no matter how different one is from another. Think of pre-primary children. They just collaborate with others. They're comfortable talking and communicating with others, like when they're playing and they're working together. They haven't developed a strong sense of self-awareness like teenagers, and they're very good group players because of this as well. And because of the sense of belonging and the little self-consciousness that they have, they're fine taking risks. They'll try it out, doesn't matter. So I'm sure there are many more that we can think of, but these character traits that we're thinking of are what employers are looking for. So what we really need to do is make the most of their natural innovation qualities and build on from there. We should preserve their skill set, that children already display that, and allow them to practice it and foster and encourage this inbuilt set mentality. They already have what employers are looking for, but what we don't want them to do is to lose them. So you learn to innovate by innovating. You learn to be creative by being creative, by having the chance to do so, by having the opportunities to do it. You learn it by doing, as well as any of those skills in the big umbrella term. So I've got another example for you from Little Stars, which reminds me of MacGyver quite a lot. And this one is, can your superhero fly? So in this STEAM challenge, learners are going to experiment with the science behind tools that help an object move without touching the object. So the objects are going to move, but we're not going to be touching, we're not going to be holding that object. To cater for the interests of young learners, because you wouldn't put it like that, they will try to make a superhero fly, so an action figure, without holding the action figure. So they will need to create a flight system. Just to sound fancy, we can call it a flight system. So first we're going to revise some language. So we'll get a Superman toy, an action figure, and we'll say, I'm a superhero. I can swim, run, and fly. I can stand up. So everyone will stand up and follow Superman's commands. Okay, so, and they're going to repeat what Superman says. I can swim. So everyone will say, I can swim. I can fly. So everyone's going to fly and say, I can fly, or any other actions you want to revise. So this has got to do with learning I can with actions, of course, for language learning. I can sit down, and everyone sits down. I can be quiet, and everyone is quiet, because Superman says so. Children bring an action figure to school. It can be a little Lego superhero. It can be one of those big ones, plastic, soft toy, whatever. And you will invite them to show their superhero and give them one ability for everyone to repeat and do the action for. So perhaps I'm Spider-Woman, I can jump. So everyone's going to jump. We're going to divide children into groups and hand out materials to the different group. So they can have the material we're going to offer are things like pieces of string. How can they make their superhero fly without holding the superhero going, oh, it's flying, holding it in your hand, but using string? How can they make their superhero fly using a piece of wood or a long block or a plastic spoon, a balloon, how can we make a superhero flight without holding the superhero? We need a flight system. And then they're going to document it, and they're going to draw their flight system here, and they're going to use the tick or the cross to say whether they achieved the challenge or not. So during lockdown, one of the interesting things I did with my kids at home was give them this challenge, and they had a lot of fun with it. There we have Alex, he's almost 7, and the first thing he did was stick his little Lego Spider-Man to his Nerf gun. And that was the way he made it fly. Of course, we're not going to give them Nerf guns in the classroom, but that was the first thing he did. He ran inside, got his Nerf gun, and stuck Spider-Man to it, and it went flying off. Mila chose, she's nearly, no, she is 3. She was, it was her birthday last month, and she chose the string and asked me to tie the string around Superman, or Batman, is it? Batman. So she made it fly by holding the string. Of course, her Batman twisted a bit and is head down, and she thought that was quite funny, but that's part of the experiment, finding the best way to make it fly. And she didn't really find that this was the best way. It was the funniest way, but it wasn't the best way of making him fly. Then Alex decided that Spider-Man could also fly, even if he's still. So he stuck him to the wall and he left them there. And there he is, flying still. And that's fine as well, he's being creative. He used another type of Spider-Man on a spoon and hit the spoon, and the Spider-Man went flying off. And the balloon, of course, they've seen a balloon flying around if you don't tie it, so it just flies around in circles, and that's what happened to that Spider-Woman who was stuck to that balloon. So we had a lot of fun experimenting with different ways. So could you, again, in that box, could you write down one word that will summarize a little bit, or one of those skills that my children were developing when they were engaged in this STEAM challenge? What skills are they developing while they're doing this? Could you write in the box? Again, no right or wrong answers. It's what you identify with this STEAM challenge as a skill that is being developed in my children in this activity.
Well, we do have some answers already. We have creativity, being resourceful, visual association. We also have imagination, problem solving, motor skills, observation, strength, risk taking.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Thanks, Pat. Yes, that's great. So some of the ideas that I came up with, but all of yours are perfect as well, are understanding limits, because they need to understand the limit to their work. They can use these materials, and they have to not touch the action figure. They have to follow that rule. It's really important. So there's self-control there. There's adaptability, because a child really wants to just hold it and make it fly, because that's much easier, and just get it and make it fly. But no, this challenge is different. You have to have a little bit of self-control and adapt to this rule that I'm giving you. This is the science behind force and motion that we're trying to get them to start to discover by themselves. There's critical thinking about how materials work. Think of the material in a different way, finding a unique solution to it. It can be different to everybody else's solution, and that's fine. So there's problem solving, because we're trying to find ways to make it fly without using our hands. The engineering concept of building a flight system while they're thinking about the design behind what they want to do to make them succeed. Of course, they will need a lot of help, for example, tying like the string, or using a tape to stick something, but that's fine. You'll have to give them some support to do that. But the idea is that they can think of the idea, that they're designing their flight system and thinking how they can make that work. There's decision making. They're thinking what tools they're going to use and how they're going to use them. That brings into the question choice and ownership. They take ownership over their decisions, over the tools, because they're given the possibility of choosing. They're documenting because we're asking them to draw the flight system like scientists do, like engineers do. You've tried out an idea, it worked or it didn't work, never mind, we still document it. There's creative thinking, there's imagination, as one of you said, using the materials in new ways to develop something different to what it is. So they're using their ability to transform regular materials into something different, a flight system in this case. So there's collaboration because they're working well together, team building and sharing. There's taking risks, as one of you said, having an idea but not knowing if it will work or not. We have to deal with the frustration if it doesn't, emotional intelligence again. And there's communication because we're going to ask them to present their, I don't think I mentioned this before, but we ask them to show all the rest what their flight system turned out to be. And if it, and they're going to be self-conscious about whether that was a good flight system or not, or how they would redesign it to make it better, or which was their favorite, or how far can those action figures fly. Those are all things that we can do after we've tried out that experiment and rethink it a little bit. So this is, according to the World Economic Forum, there's a report that tells us what the future of jobs will be. This is the list of the 10 top innovation skills that will be needed in 2020, that are needed in 2020 and beyond, and it's compared to 2015. So it's these so-called innovation skills that people will need for an innovation-driven future. That's what people are talking about now. That's sort of the new trend, the innovation future. So these are the skills that employers would be looking for. If we look at it carefully, we can see that there are 3 that have gone from 2015 up to the top 3 in 2020: complex problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. But there is also a lot about people management, coordinating with others. That all becomes part of collaborating, doesn't it? Being able to work with others. So there is a lot of research that links types of data to, that analyzes data to figure out what the skills and abilities of the future will be. This is just one of them, but most of them come to the same conclusion, at least for the top 3 or 4. So this is the last example that I'm going to give you, which is a team building game that I love. And I think one of my children's teachers must be here watching. And I saw her doing this once in an open class at school with Alex in K5, the 5-year-old group, and they were doing this game, and I really liked seeing how they were doing it, and I thought it was lovely for team building. So what you need is cups, and children are going to be asked to follow a song. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to follow a song, and we're going to build a tower of cups that follows the sequence in the song. But they're not just going to move the cups around and put them on. So we've got an extra challenge here, which is that they have to use this strange tool that you see here. So this is a rubber band, an elastic band, and it's got bits of thread or wool, tied to it. So I've got 5 bits, it could be 4. And what children are going to have to do, we're going to give one of these to each group, and they're going to stretch it so that they can put it over the cup and lift up the cups using this system, not using their hands. So they can't tip the cups, they have to use this system. So they need to open it and release. And we're going to give them this tool, and they're going to try it out for themselves. What we don't want to do in STEAM is give all the answers. We want them to experiment and to be hands-on. So we don't want to give them the answer. We don't want to say, this is how you use it. No, we just give it to them and say, you have to lift a cup using that, not your hands, but using that, and discover how to use it. So they'll have to coordinate very well, because when one pulls, another one has to pull, and you have to pull from the other side as well. That's why I can't do it, because I'm on my own. So I can't do it. You need to have a team to be able to do it. So then you can, of course, once they've tried to discover how it works, you will all practice together and say, okay, now open or pull, and everyone will open or pull, and then close and they'll release. So open and close until they get it. Now that they've got it, okay, now we'll go into the game itself. And this is part of a unit about professions. So there you have a few cards that you can see. So what we'll do is we'll stick on the cup a little card of, in this case, the sequence in the song goes pilot, singer, scientist, and painter. You've got those 4 that come in that order in the song. So you're going to have the pictures stuck on those cups. You've got 4 cups with the 4 pictures, or you draw it. That's going to be for painter. That's going to be for pilot. That's going to be for singer, and that's going to be for scientist. Those are the 4 professions that we have in this song. So they'll have to, of course, know the song very well. So you'll teach the song, you'll sing the song with them, and make sure that they know the sequence, the pattern in which the professions appear. And then they'll have to play and open the elastic band and put it over a cup and put that over the next one, etc. So they do it in order. That's the important thing. They can speak in English while they do it. So saying out loud the profession that comes next in the song, or singing their song in the groups to remind them. All right. So the challenge is to build that with this special tool. I call it an octopus because it could have 8 legs, only has 5, but never mind. Or it could be a sun, it looks like a sun with the rays of the sun. In this case, of course, we're working with collaboration because they have to work together to be able to use this new tool. Of course, there's self-control as well because of that coordination. It's not individual. Don't just do what you want to do because you won't be able to open that elastic band enough. So you need to work with others. You have to coordinate your movements with the rest of the group. There's creative thinking because when we're giving them the possibility to look at this tool and discover it for themselves, the sun or the octopus, whatever you want to call it, they have to find the way to use it. They have to explore and they have to learn how to use something that has been transformed into something else. So they're given the tool but not told how to use it. We don't want to fall into that. They'll discover it. There's communication. We want them to all go for the same cup. If they don't communicate in their groups, maybe one of them is trying to lift up the painter and the other one's trying to lift up the singer cup. So they need to know what they're aiming at. So they need to communicate to be able to do that. So they'll be saying singer, singer, singer next. Okay, singer. Now painter, painter. So they'll be using that language to remember what comes next. And there's problem solving to accomplish this cup stacking challenge following the sequence in an order. It cannot be in any order. It has to be that order. There's the maths concept of sequencing here and the science of how to use this strange tool as an actual tool to pick things up and move things around. A bit like using a crane, it works a bit like using a crane. So there you go. A range of skills that we want learners to practice and to keep. We don't want them to lose them. These are the skills that children already possess, and we don't want them to lose them or they'll be losing big assets for their future. So I think it is important to integrate STEAM into our classrooms. Let's look at this quote: the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Doesn't mean we're not going to teach them to read and write, of course, but we need to have them be adaptable and flexible and have initiative and be innovative and come up with new ideas and different solutions to things. They need to be able to have a learning mindset and lifelong learning skills. So if you want to learn more about the skills of the future, I invite you to explore futureskills.pearson.com, where it's very interesting and you'll find Pearson's research about the skills that will be in demand in the year 2030. It's really interesting, so go in and have a look at it. It's a great resource to use. If you want to learn more about STEAM, you can enter Pearson Experiences, where you will find downloadable material, resources, a pocket guide, a podcast to listen to all about STEAM. If you want to read some blog posts, you have Pearson's blog, where you can read more about it too. And if you want to learn about Little Stars, you have the website there, where you can visit the catalogue and learn more about the course. So thank you very much for your attention. I hope you will join the STEAM movement if you haven't already, where we acknowledge how important it is to prepare children with the skills that they'll need for the future. While on the surface, it may look like children are just playing and stacking blocks, if you dig deeper, you'll see that they're learning the necessary skills to help them build not a building of blocks, but build their futures, hopefully. So again, thank you for joining Pearson, Little Stars, and myself, and congratulations to all of you who are transforming your classrooms for the future.
Thank you, Sarah. It's been really interesting, and everybody is sharing in the chat how happy they are to be part of this webinar, and they have really enjoyed the ideas and the activities. And so we do have some time for questions, and I already have some questions for you, Sarah. Is that okay?
Shoot.
One of the questions we have here is, yes, we have one here that says, how long should a lesson for kids be?
Okay, I guess we're talking about a STEAM lesson, a lesson based on STEAM. Yeah, this will probably take, it depends what you're doing really. If we're looking at STEAM challenges like we're looking at now, they should be lessons. So your lesson, whether it's 30 minutes, 40 minutes, that would be enough time for a STEAM challenge, because these are designed to be quite short STEAM challenges. But if you're looking at STEAM projects, which is not what I've shown here, then that will be much longer. You will start one day with an entry event, then your driving question, then you'll go into the experimentation itself on different days, because that's a whole project. So here we're looking at a lesson that is based on STEAM. Okay, and in this case, in Little Stars, what we have is a STEAM lesson at the end of each unit. So they will have their lessons, and at the end of each unit, we will integrate the language that they've been learning in a STEAM lesson.
You can use it also for formative assessment. You'll be doing the project, lots of fun, but at the same time, you can be checking on how much they have learned. Thank you, Sarah. And we do have a lot of concern about remote teaching, and teachers are asking how to carry out these activities online.
Yes, of course. Yes, I imagine that was going to be one of the questions, given the current situation. Okay, so one of the difficulties in doing it online will be the collaboration, probably, and that is probably one of the concerns, because children are on their own at home, so they can do things, but it's quite individualized, isn't it? It's not difficult to carry out a STEAM challenge, because you can send them a video showing them what they're going to be doing. So you introduce the STEAM activity without giving the answers. So you tell them that they're going to play around with this idea, that they're going to be experimenting, but don't show them the answer to the experiment. So you can send them a video if you're using a platform that is asynchronous, so that they can watch it whenever they want. They can see what it's about, send them the instructions, and they can play around with the idea. If possible, ask the parents to send in a video to see what they have done, photographs to see this, and if you're using Padlet or anything that's collaborative like that, you can always put it there so that everyone can see what everyone else has been doing, so that, you know, it's not just something that you do at home and that's it, but we can all see, okay, if we're doing superheroes flying, then we want to see what everyone else has done and how they solve that. So we need to share those ideas with everyone else. If you're doing something on a synchronous platform like Zoom or Google Meet, then you can always guide them through the process. Make sure they have the material beforehand. They always need material for STEAM because it's hands-on. So they will need that material. Make sure they know what it is, and you have the parents help them get that material ready beforehand. And you can guide them through it during those 40 minutes, 30 or 40 minutes on the live, when you're doing it live. So that's also fun because they can try it out there and then, and everyone can see what everyone else is doing. So it can be done.
Yes, of course. And little kids love being recorded and preparing videos and showing what they have experimented. So I think it's a very good idea to do online. So we do have another question: how this kind of activity could be useful with children who only have a mobile phone to watch and participate. So here Jacqueline is talking about these situations where they do not have a computer at home. But again, I think that if it is a video, what do you think, Sarah? If it is asynchronous, sharing videos in a Padlet, could be solved, right?
Absolutely, yeah. If they've only got access to phones, then a pre-recorded video from the teacher is easy to watch on a phone, and they can do their experiment at home and send a video or a photograph, and the teacher can put them all in one place where everyone can see what's happening. Yeah.
That's right. Well, thank you, Sarah, once again. It's been great sharing with you and listening to you, sharing all those ideas. Remember that we have shared in the chat the links for you to find out more about STEAM and about Little Stars. And of course, you will get the link to the recording so that you can watch again or share this information with your colleagues. Thank you, Sarah. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for being there, and we will be in contact as always. Bye.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you for everything. Thank you, everybody who is out there. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.